When I was a kid, this was my tree house. Not one that I had to build, but one that just naturally grew. A hollow sycamore tree that just happened to have an opening in the base you could crawl into, was hollow in the middle, and had another opening at the top that you could crawl out of. It also conveniently had a window. So that got me thinking, if there's trees out there big enough that an adult like myself can literally fit inside, how big do these sycamores get, and what's the biggest one I can find? So today, that's exactly what we're going to try to do. Now, if you've watched this channel before, you know me. I'm not just going to Google largest sycamore tree, take you to some state park, and show you a tree that anybody can see. I'm going to take you somewhere to some tree that nobody knows about in a place that nobody can get to. So, please do me a favor. At the bottom of your screen, hit that subscribe button, that like button, leave a comment, and share this video so I can keep doing them. I think we have a contender. I can't tell you exactly where here is, but I can show you what I found. Right now, the scale might be hard to truly comprehend on the video, so we're going to do a couple things. One, we're going to park the razor by it for a little size comparison. And two, we're going to try to officially measure it today. Okay, maybe not quite officially. That probably takes some government agency or some paperwork, but we're still going to measure it. All right, I went ahead and parked the razor right up next to the tree so you can see how big it is. Sorry, wrong side. Like I said, I went ahead and parked a 64-inch wide razor up against the tree so you can see how big it is. So if you have guesses about the diameter of this tree, go ahead and leave them in the comments now. And let's see how accurate you can get. And if you know a sycamore tree out there that's bigger than this, other than maybe one or two I can Google, go ahead and send me a link or send me some pictures. I'd like to hear about it. So let's take a little bit of a closer look on this tree first. I think the reason this tree grew so big around, one, obviously it's probably a few hundred years old, but two, if we look at the top, somewhere along its life, the top got broke out of it. I'm thinking when the top got broke out of it that it didn't have to put as much energy into growing, and it was able to put more energy into the lower part of the tree and its diameter. That's just my hypothesis. Not saying it's right, not saying I'm an arborist. I also have a sneaking suspicion that if you could climb up there and look down that left side, you'd find that it's kind of hollow in the inside too, just like the tree I was inside earlier. Unfortunately, I'm not going to climb up there because I don't feel like falling that far. I read on the conservation website the correct way to measure the diameter of a tree is to start exactly 4.5 feet from the base. So I cleared the snow down here to try to get to some solid ground. I have my measuring tape here, and this is 4.5 feet. I ran a screw into the tree, don't hate me. So that's going to give me my 4.5 foot mark to measure around the tree. That's kind of where the simplicity ends, because if we walk around this tree, a couple things we notice right away is this tree is kind of lumpy. And if I end up measuring here versus 1 inch lower, well, the diameter is greatly increased. And that's kind of an issue all the way around the tree. And I'm not sure that I'm going to be 100% accurate there, but I'm sure going to try. The second thing is the tree's got just a slight lean to it, as opposed to being straight up and down. Now, my assumption is we don't want to measure completely parallel to the ground if the tree is leaning, because if you did that, technically a tree that had fallen over on the ground would have a very large diameter. So I'm assuming we technically want to measure at a little bit of an angle to be more fair. So that's the second thing I'm going to try to accomplish. So I'm going to wrap a string around the tree, starting at that screw. Try to keep it on this slight angle that matches the tree. Bring it around to the other side, mark it, then we're going to have to lay the string out and we're going to have to measure the string. That's the best way I can come up with, so let's try that. Here's my attempt, but here's also some problems I ran into that I'm really not sure the correct way to do this, but I'm going to show you anyway, so if you know the correct way, you can leave it in the comments. So we know that screw there, 4.5 feet. So I went around the tree a little ways. Now I was going to put another one at 4.5 feet. First problem. If the tape measure's leaned, it's going to be longer. So I'm assuming they meant 4.5 feet with the tape measure standing perpendicular to the ground. And if we lean it into the tree, it's obviously going to be a longer distance. So if somebody wants to know their geometry and figure that all out, but really 4 feet 7 when you back it up is closer to 4 feet 5. That's the first problem. Second problem is, as we move around the tree, the ground gets higher on this side. But where do we consider that the ground ends and the tree begins if I'm supposed to measure from the base of the tree? Is this root coming out of the ground, the tree? Is this, which is clearly part of the tree, considered the tree? So should I measure the base out there? Or do I measure the base in here where it really starts to go up at a quicker angle? I truly don't know. So if you know, you'll just have to let me know. I tried to be fair. So there's some bumps here. Would have added to the circumference. I went above that. Again, there are some other bumps. If I would have went a little lower, would have added a lot to the circumference. So I went above that. Even right here, I didn't go with the narrowest part, but I also didn't go with the widest part, so. And then again here, I stuck a tape measure in the ground right there, measured up to there, got 4.5 feet. Again, it's going to be longer if you lean it into the tree, so show you that I kept some distance. I mean, longer lean angle is going to add that the thing's higher, but you know, truly it's not if you put it perpendicular to the ground. So this is my best guess, and maybe it's off one direction or another a little bit. I'm certainly not trying to deceive anybody. What we're going to do next, and you're going to watch me do it, is we're going to cut the string right here. So this is going to be the length of our tree. Or excuse me, this is going to be the circumference of our tree right here. All right. We're going to take that screw out, We know not to measure that tiny bit, so then we're going to just measure here with the string. So last chance, if you got any guesses of how big around this tree is, post them in the comments now. I have a feeling that it may not be the largest sycamore in America. I have a feeling it's definitely going to be up there in the top 5, possibly even higher if you count only trees that are still alive. I know there's one huge one in a museum that's just a tree stump that's been dead for 100 years, but we're going to talk about live ones right now. So let me get this string down. Let's go find a flat place, lay it down, measure it, see what we have. I have the string fastened to the same loop it was when it was tight to the tree. I have the measuring tape laid out here. The only thing left to do is pull the string tight and get a final measurement. Last chance to submit your guesses. And the final circumference of this tree comes out to 23 feet, 9.5 inches. That's a girthy tree. I was thinking, how cool would it be if we could also find the tallest sycamore tree on the same day we found the largest circumference sycamore tree? So I found this sycamore tree. Unfortunately, while the sun is out, it's not out bright enough that I can measure some shadows of a known object, use some geometry, and figure out the height of this tree. So for fuzzy math, what I do know is from the base of this tree, it's right where that log is 10 feet. So if I back up, take a picture of this tree from far away, maybe I can just start adding sections, stacking them on top of each other, and get a real rough idea of how tall this tree is. So I'm going to do that. I went ahead and found a better angle to take a picture of this tree as far back as I could. You have to think, if you're standing right under the tree looking up it, it's only going to take a couple sections and you're going to cover the whole tree. So the farther back you can stand, the more accurate the measurement's going to be. You can never stand infinitely back from the tree, so it's never going to be 100% accurate. The tree is always going to be taller than I'm actually measuring this way. But at least this kind of gives us a minimum of how tall the tree is. So if we zoom in here, we can see that big branch I was talking about right here. So I know from here to here is 10 feet. So then what I did was literally selected this and kept copying and pasting every 10 feet. The same image, stacked it all the way to the top. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. 130 feet tall is probably the minimum height of this sycamore tree. Again, obviously you need to do more accurate measurement. The way I'm doing it is going to give a minimum height. But there's another record to look up. What's the tallest living sycamore in the U.S.? This one's over 130 feet tall. Where does that place it on the record books? Someone let me know in the comments. That wraps up another video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you happen to know the correct way to measure a tree, please let me know. I really don't know the correct way when the ground's uneven, what you're supposed to do, so I did the best I could in that video. But I'm sure there's some official metrics or ways to go about it. If you know those, I'd love to hear it. If you're one of those people who likes to Google, go ahead and look up the largest living sycamore tree in America right now. And tell me where that one ranks overall on the list. I have a feeling it's pretty high up there. Maybe not number 1, number 2, but maybe top 5 living sycamore trees, which is pretty impressive when you consider how big this country is. That's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you.